Imagine waking up one morning and realizing your world has turned into ice. No movement, no escape, just endless frozen white stretching in every direction. That's exactly what 28 men faced in 1914 when they set out to cross Antarctica and instead found themselves trapped in the Weddell Sea, locked inside a frozen prison for almost 2 years. Their ship, the Endurance, didn't just get stuck. It was slowly crushed by the unbelievable pressure of the surrounding ice. Day after day, the men listened to the wooden beams, groaning, twisting, and snapping as if the ship itself was crying out. When the hull finally cracked apart, they were left standing on drifting ice floes, holding whatever food and supplies they managed to save. There was no radio to call for help, no rescue ships anywhere near them, just 28 men, stranded in the coldest, most isolated place on the planet. Their leader, Sir Ernest Shackleton, knew that survival depended on more than just food. If the men lost hope, they would lose everything. So he kept them busy every single day, clearing snow, repairing tents, hunting seals for meat, and even holding evening sing-alongs to break the silence of the endless frozen nights. Because in Antarctica, loneliness could be more dangerous than the cold. Weeks passed, and the ice beneath their camp began to crack and shift. The men would wake up to the sound of the ice splitting, sometimes just inches from their tents. The entire frozen sheet was drifting north, breaking apart like shattered glass. Any wrong step could drop them into freezing waters where death came in minutes. Finally, Shackleton made a decision that seemed impossible. They had to abandon the ice and launch their 3 small wooden lifeboats. The moment the boats hit the water, the men were thrown into chaos. Towering waves, freezing spray, and constant storms that threatened to flip their tiny vessels. For 7 brutal days, they rode through the wild sea on Earth until they reached a cold, deserted island known as Elephant Island. It wasn't home, it wasn't safety, but it was land, and that alone felt like victory. Still, no one knew they were there. No ship came to those waters. If they stayed, they would eventually starve. Shackleton chose 5 men to join him on a desperate journey. In a tiny 7-meter boat, they sailed 1 in 300 kilometers through hurricane winds and waves taller than houses. 16 days later, barely alive, they reached South Georgia Island. But the island's whaling stations were on the opposite coast, separated by mountains no one had ever crossed. Shackleton and 2 others marched across those peaks for 36 straight hours without rest, climbing icy cliffs and sliding down frozen slopes until they finally reached help. When Shackleton walked into the whaling station, dirty, exhausted, and unrecognizable, he spoke only 4 words: "My men are alive." And he kept his promise. After months of rescue attempts, he returned to Elephant Island. As he stepped onto the beach, he counted the men slowly, one by one. All 22 were alive. For nearly 2 years, these 28 men endured starvation, storms, freezing temperatures, shifting ice, and complete isolation. But they survived because of leadership, unity, and an unbreakable will to keep going, even when everything around them was frozen and hopeless.